Hello and welcome to Chicanime. My name is Lauren and today I am going to be looking at a comfy Lilin video. It's been a minute since I've watched it, but he does like Frieren stuff. And sometimes I'm just in the mood for Frieren instead of Overlord. I know. So today I'm going to be looking at a character study about Himmel. Who is the real Himmel? Because again, we don't get a lot of time with him. We see him through the eyes of everybody he's saved and through Frieren, who is, unbeknownst to her, mostly in love with him. She's mostly figured it out by this point, I think. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Comfy has to say about Himmel. So without further ado, except for putting on my headphones as I tell you to, if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure that you let me know by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, knowing that you can get these significantly earlier if you are over on the Patreon. And yeah, let's begin.
Who really is this guy? He's a replica of a sword, a myth of a hero, an extinct blue weed, a painful loss, and a very real inspiration to a lot of people. Who really is he? For a lot of Frieren, Himmel is seen through the eyes of the mage. Something happens and it makes her remember, and in those memories, he usually comes off pretty damn amazingly, like a polished, perfect man. But I don't—
Except for when he gets all arrogant. He's very confident. Let's say confident maybe in his appearance and his looks, and let's put statues of me everywhere. It's a little bit egotistical. I can get behind it though.
I think his appeal purely comes from being ideal, but from Himmel being really quite human.
She does love him,
the reality behind the myth, something better.
Real occasional bouts of gremlin.
He's an open, perfect man, but I don't think his appeal purely comes from being ideal, but from Himmel being really quite human.
Yeah, look at him go. Look at him go. He's gonna fight somebody.
The reality behind the myth, something better. He's an opened sky. Let's start with the obvious. Himmel's name means sky or heaven. As for his design, well, are we getting any firm theme from his design? Yeah.
Blue.
That'd be so
Cookie Monster. I was like, oh, I guess the thing we're getting is Cookie Monster. I was gonna say blue, but then he put, okay, look, I'm a literal person, okay? Sorry.
Blue. So I want to talk a tiny little bit about color theory in him. It's the idea that colors are linked to specific emotions. Blue is kindness, it's calm, it's safety, order, loyalty. It's Himmel. The blue traits in color theory are pretty much a description of a hero or of Himmel, especially in the traits that Himmel will be trying to embody. It's the guy who keeps sages at bay, the guy who stops to do every damn side quest. Then there's heaven and the sky. His name means sky, which ideally should be blue. I tried to get some footage of a blue sky for this, but I live in the UK, so that's out. But I hear it's supposed to be blue. The sky carries all those same connotations as Himmel's blue design, being maybe the most primitive blue symbol. It's also roughly where heaven is supposed to be. Not in the world of Frieren, it's in the northernmost lands there, but symbolically, for the audience, there's that link to Himmel. Then we've got birds that live in the sky, which at times seem to invoke Himmel in a symbolic sense.
Oh,
the darker shades of blue that we see in his outfit are associated with less personal and more outwardly heroic attributes, which clicks with his outfit being something chosen. They're the very qualities he'd want to project, whereas the softer side, the parts that make him easy to love, are the blues we see in his natural qualities.
I love this. I haven't gone deep into character, our colors in costuming for a long time. I used to, because I did a bunch of costuming and stuff classes in college. And so linking color to costuming is something that I will occasionally remember to do. It just doesn't always hit me in that kind of way. Also, sometimes I get a little overly literal with that one too. I remember I did a project once where I had to go and see a show. We saw All Shook Up was the show. And then we had to do an analysis on the costuming for the show. So the end of the show, the costume designer had put the lead female character, they're about to go on a motorcycle, a cross-country motorcycle thing. They had put the female character in an all-white outfit for it. So it's I was okay, look, it was probably meant to be a rebirth and it's a new start and blah, blah, blah. But then I was but also it's gonna get real dirty real fast. And And I was like, maybe that's symbolic too, because it's like you can't ever stay clean. You're going to like get messy. It's life, you know? And then I forgot that the teacher that I had was the one who had designed the costumes. And so when she got to that point in my essay, she's like, I hadn't even thought of that. And I was like, look, it's white. They're going on a cross-country motorcycle tour. It's going to get real messy. Point being, I enjoy color theory. And I enjoy looking at character choice through color theory. And like, I just hadn't considered the wearing of the blue outfit as being, that's what he wants to project. I think that's really cool. Hadn't considered it. I love the idea that that is part of the image he has cultivated for himself. I love it.
Hair, his eyes. Sorry, I got a little
See what I just said? White, purity and new beginnings. I was just saying, I was pretty sure this is supposed to signify new beginnings, but it's just gonna get messy.
Everything about Himmel, from his name to design, is full of this symbolism. Himmel is larger than life. His core ideas are all over his design. To get his themes across as clearly as possible, as difficult to miss as it can be, he embodies those heroics so well. Although the substance below has just as much going on, the design might scream hero, but Himmel is human. Yeah, Himmel is a human. He has flaws. Although most are ones that'll make him more appealing as a hero, they're not entirely negative. Like, he's in a job interview saying his worst quality is that he works too hard. The most obvious is vanity, but the vanity of what he wants to become. As much as, the wanting to be loved for it. The ego that pushes him to help out everyone that he sees. He knows what a hero should be, that kind, open sky, and he knows the recognition he wants for that. They're two sides of the same vain coin. Although it's a very noble form of it, of wanting to be better, a very humanizing quality. He wants statues. He wants a specific type of flower for those statues. We can have flaws, and if these character traits are part of what motivates us to be better, well, it's all the better for it. The thing that seems to have clicked the most is Himmel's infectious idealism, an outlook,
That's
a
fair.
philosophy even. In a
He really
did
he always manages to bring out the best of everybody because he expects the best, He's like, well, it can be better. And we can make it better. So why shouldn't we? And then everyone kind of falls in line with that. And it's really nice.
Discussing the afterlife, Eisen goes with the earlier belief that death is a return to nothingness. Well, Himmel thinks it doesn't matter, but an afterlife would be more convenient. Maybe he is in heaven, maybe he's a bird now. A solid heaven would be more convenient than the fairy tale and the memories persisting. I think Himmel's disregard to the reality of the afterlife compared with the nicer idea is a perfect example of his romanticism. The urge to find the optimistic, the idealistic. He's quite a contrast to Frieren in this, the hot and the cold, but his idealism is infectious. Himmel's optimism is the best of humanity, even if it brushes up against the rougher realities of the world. He goes through some stuff, from tough fights to, just plain old psychological messes, but he still doesn't err from his task of defeating the Demon King. This resolve is part of the monument of heroics he's building in life. The good traits are those that are written in the history books, the noble intentions, but sometimes there's something more flawed below. He wants to show up his childhood friend. Threatens to kill a child for peeking up a skirt. That bit is more of a gag, but it's a rare spot of Himmel actually breaking. His flaws and moments where he breaks away from the stoic portrays a fuller person than the statues. Himmel.
And I'm really hoping we see more of that in season 2, because as she gets further away from it and as she sort of starts to come to terms with her feelings for Himmel, it's super idealized right now, right? She's remembering all the best parts. She's it's fondness, I think it would be interesting to see a couple more actual conflicts that those two maybe had, because Frieren doesn't really get into it with people. If she's annoyed, she just kind of goes and leaves the situation because there's no point really. But I think it would be interesting, but she couldn't get away from him and they spent 10 years together. I think it would be interesting to really explore some of the differences, the more differences that they had, where instead of her just leaving the situation, maybe they actually had to work out over something, even though Himmel was usually just simping really hard for her, which, fair. But I don't know, I just think it would be, as she comes to terms with her feelings, as she realizes what she did feel and realizes that it's now too late, and like that's part of the reason she's going on this trip in the first place, to see if she can't find him. Like, I think it would be interesting to see her come to terms with the less idealized side of him too. I think that would be cool.
The hero might be a legendary figure, but Himmel, the man who wants to be a hero, that's why he's so compelling. The fully rounded being that would eventually be lost to memory. Well, would be if he hadn't have fallen in love with an elf.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that relationship. First, how they met. The romantic stuff aside and any kind of imprinting, Frieren is kind to him, is a big influence on his philosophy to adventure and on how to live. The joy you can spread in small actions. That is a quest worth doing on its own. It's not far past that when he saves a merchant as a child and gets given the sword that kicks off his journey. We know he remembers what happened with Frieren quite clearly because of how he recruits her later. He remembers the importance of being kind, from a mage taking the time to spread flowers, the first of many links between the two of them and flowers. Frieren's gift to him is the inspiration to reach out to help people. She impacts his idea of a hero. He spent his adventures since repaying that favor, being kind to randoms he meets, to Frieren, to the
Damn, you know it's a good story because like it's an analysis video and I'm still like cheering up about it. Like that's how much this whole tale has really, really stuck with me for this lot. Like, I mean, we finished watching this show months and months ago, and I'm like, and I haven't gone back to rewatch it or anything. I almost never go back to rewatch anything. I just do not have the spoons for it. But like, it's making me like cheer up again. Just remembering, just in this analysis video, him reminding me of stuff. I'm like, oh yeah.
party to everyone. When roles are reversed from that first meeting, he tracks her down in the woods. Himmel is the one to push Frieren back out into the world, first to recover from a massive knock to her confidence as a mage, and then to connect with the world and humanity in a wider sense, to try to get out there. He saved her from herself twice over. It's nice payback for showing him a flower spell. Between this and, when he's dead, they travel together on that mere 10-year adventure. He falls in love, but never actually crosses the line to confess to Frieren. There's an argument to be made that Himmel sparing Frieren from a genuine confession, from really pushing how he feels out there,
is out of the same that she's gonna like outlive him by so much. And he's like, and I think that he kind of knew that her feelings were similar. Like, I think he sensed that. But it's like, but let's spare at least her the heartbreak. You know? I'm gonna cry again just thinking about it. Oh my god.
Kindness. But does he hold back purely trying to be noble and spare Frieren's feelings?
Maybe.
Or because of that romantic idealization of unrequited love? I think it's a bit...
It might be that too. It also might be that too. I'm like, I'm gonna think about it in the more pleasant way. But it also is possible. It's like maybe partly, maybe she doesn't. But also it's like, but it's part of the vibe to be unrequitedly in love with an elf. But I do think that it was at least a big part of it. The wishing to spare her feelings. And I think that maybe there was some like, I can play this part really well, and then also partly a little bit of a fear of maybe it's not as reciprocated as I think it is. There's, but again, he's a very interesting character and he's very fully fleshed out, even though he's only got like 9 minutes of screen time.
Bit of both. He never does tell her how he feels. Confessing would be selfish. So he accepts that he can enjoy the relationship without being together. He learns to live off the form of love he gets, not the one he wants. There's occasionally a hint of sadness in the more romantic memories, as Himmel seems aware that his gestures are sailing right over her head. He's being the big hero again, bravely holding back his feelings for someone else's sake. But best case scenario, if he didn't, he'd be condemning her to some lonely centuries. Yeah. It's a noble reason, but one that plays into this romantic hero that he wants to be.
Yeah,
well,
it works out for him in multiple
ways. He might have been trying to spare her feelings. He wasn't successful. The biggest obstacle to Frieren and Himmel is just time. I love the composition of the proposal scene for that reason. We have the marriage-like proposal here, and what's sat in the middle? Time. A clock tower. Time is the main obstacle standing between them. We get a visual showing of this time problem when Frieren is remembering when she joins the party. We get that flashback itself, and then a quick flurry of the adventure as a whole. And within a few seconds, the current day. The whole thing must have felt very quick. And on both sides of their time together, there's flowers. One of the motifs we
I'm
see a
fine.
lot with him are
Don't worry about it.
flowers, something Frieren seems to symbolically link to him, particularly the daisy, we'll come to that, and the blue moon weed. Now of course in a wider sense flowers are symbolic in Frieren as a whole. They kind of represent her love for magic at times, but a lot of her big relationships have key iconography with the flowers chosen to represent them, and Him was not an
Okay.
exception to that. In a bigger flower scene we get Frieren trying to bring some colour to a statue, one cared for by an old woman who Himmel once saved from demons. The blue moon originally grew in Himmel's hometown, but they've died out. An overly blue thing from the same place as Himmel. It's extinct, but remembered by those that Himmel saved. The flowers are him. I think there's some obvious symbolism in Frieren's quest to bring the Himmel flower back to the region. The blue moon weed is called a flower by Himmel, and a weed
And
by
it's
everyone
blue
else.
and sky
The
and
difference
all of
between a
that.
flower and a weed is just if they're wanted in that location or not. It's a fictional flower as far as I can tell, but there's plenty that look similar. Himmel comes from an ordinary background. He isn't the chosen hero of the sword. He's a replica trying to be one, a weed growing and trying to be the flower. That ends up much more beautiful than what should have grown there. Just like her journey to get to know humans better and to see Himmel again eventually, in bringing back the blue moon flowers, we get a miniature of Frieren's motivation for the main journey before she even leaves for it, with flowers of all types underpinning the realization. The flashback to watching the party have fun in flowers, and down to the flower crown Himmel puts on her head. The flowers here are a callback to those emotions, stirring them up just as much as Himmel did. There's symbolism between Himmel and flowers, that idealism, that innocence. Later we see a sleeping Frieren dreaming about Himmel and the party leaving for the adventure in a particularly romanticized way, which opens with a large shot of a white daisy. Not meaningless, the choice of flower there. The Nippon daisy means new beginnings, and the purity of love. It's used in weddings a lot. The flowers in Frieren's imagination actually seem to know her better than she knows herself.
Yeah.
Flowers are short-lived, typically, almost like a human to an elf. It's a motif we see pop up with Himmel often when he's at his most romanticized in Frieren's eyes. Himmel and flowers is one of those things, and I think flowers are a pretty enough metaphor for a lot of his core character. They keep blooming, even after we've said goodbye to him.
I'm gonna like
He dies
seriously.
of
Oh
old
my
age,
god.
not adventure. But we do know he held on to reminders of his time. In his home, he even has his hero's outfit and sword, the whole time. In a glass cabinet, the mythological Himmel the hero just sitting there in a case, waiting. Frieren comes back in her meager single visit to find him looking at it. We're not treated to Himmel's flashback the same as we normally get Frieren's, but we can imagine he's doing some reminiscing of his own here. He doesn't take the hero gear back out on the new adventure. Himmel, the myth, stays behind for that final trip. Although after his death, the display case is empty again. The legendary hero might be buried, but Himmel is still alive in Frieren. For his actual death, Frieren rudely takes him on a week-long trek, but as Himmel sums up, it's a mini-adventure, reliving his best days, seeing something he's been awaiting most of his life, and it's beautiful. He gets to be back in those days where he first journeyed. Heiter thinks he was happy at the end, but it's only when faced with the coffin, with the reality of that immortality she's keen on reminding everyone about, that Frieren realizes what he meant to her. As she leaves for the second time, we see Frieren contemplating the ring he bought her. That gesture, the innocent affection of a daisy. One where only time stood between them, and here it is again, with time having done its work. The gap between that ring and this one, these two and these two, that's the clock's role in that shot played out. Only, we got the resolution way before the setup. Himmel does get a nice actual death too, dying peacefully, reunited with friends, experiencing natural beauty. I'm not sure if there's a better way to go. I mean, which would you go for? For my money, it's probably the nicest death allowed in this genre.
I'm really glad he
Since
got
Frieren
it.
is beyond the end of Himmel's story, the majority we see of him is after he's dead, outside of, that one bit. But Himmel's role is explicably linked to the way that he's memorialized, the fairy tale left behind. It's something he's actively thinking about through his adventure, his place in history, and the version of it that his friends will have to live with. In one flashback, he initially doesn't get Frieren's obsession with the fake grimoires. Discussing why she has it seems to trigger something. The shot switches to show him more prominently than those who are talking. We don't see his reaction, but it's focusing in on him specifically, implying there's something happening here. Perhaps he's realizing how time will wedge itself between humans and elves.
Maybe, but because I was also like, she's collecting the fake grimoires because people are like kind of claiming that they're from Flemite, right? And it's like, so this is her way of connecting with her old master. And I think he did kind of realize that at some point. It's like, yeah, she's going to outlive all of us by a lot, but there needs to be something left behind for her to find and for her to go back to and for her to connect to. You know, there's things that are reminding her of people that she cared about. It's reminding him that she does have people that she's cared about in the past, and this is a connection to it. And so I just like, I'm gonna cry. This is a fucking good story.
Once he's gone, the real him might not be remembered, just the fairy tale. It sets us up to revisit the statue obsession. He wants them so he'll still be thought of, but also so Frieren won't be alone in the future. To show that he really existed, the statues are emblematic of Himmel's character, his kind heart combining with ego, finding the most virtuous ways of explaining his actions. The memorialization of Himmel suits the flawed character, someone better than the hero of the Holy Sword. The flashback in episode 10 to the start of the journey shows Himmel pretty fully. He only has a replica of the sword, but at the outset he's committed to getting the real one. He's going to be a real hero with a real sword. But the passage of time is cruel. He failed to pull the sword, and we see Himmel in a rare, vulnerable moment. Kind of. We see Himmel's back in a rare, vulnerable moment. Here, the direction lets the voice actor take the brunt of the work, hiding Himmel's sadness, hiding it from the party, and he begins to explain how it won't matter. There's nothing wrong with not getting the sword, and by the end of the speech, it seems Himmel has convinced himself and the others almost entirely, and he did live up to his decision. Himmel is the type of person who can take a setback and make it something meaningful, something that helps, and make it a blessing. His ability to talk himself back up is what makes him such an inspiring hero. Himmel takes a replica of a sword and uses it to perform deeds that inspire generations of heroes, to do the things so many adventurers failed to do. The sword is Himmel, the model of a hero. Future generations always romanticize them to the point that their original nature disappears, but Himmel's original nature isn't perfect, it's someone striving to be better, by always helping those who need it, by doing what a hero would do. Himmel resonates maybe not because he's Mr. Perfect, but because he's trying. It's fiction, but good fiction has the power to change reality. Himmel, the hero striving to do better, has inspired good deeds in universe and in our world. How many will read or watch Himmel and decide his idealism is worth striving for in reality too? It's a rare—
And like she does the flower crowns and stuff. She passes along those things because he liked them, and it's, oh my god, it's so nice. I haven't seen this show in actual months. And this is an analysis video of one character. God damn, I'm a mess.
Rare thing for a character to connect on such a level. And in that, the fictional Himmel is more than a hero. In the world of Frieren, but also in ours.
Dude, you made me cry. That's not fair. That's not cool. I'm telling him. Oh, it's fine. Crying over a show I haven't seen in months. All right, that's comfy Lilin. Making me cry over an analysis video. Oh my goodness. Can't wait for season 2. Thanks for watching. Again, you get these videos earlier on Patreon. Get a lot of other stuff over on Patreon too. There's a bunch of shows that are just not here and might never show up over here on YouTube. But it's fun. It's fun over there. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.